Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going into outer space. We're going to be creating a galaxy. And we're going to be putting together nebulas and outer space regions and planetary regions. We're going to be trying to get some minerals and trying to get credits to win the game. Today we're going to be looking at Galaxy of Trian. And this is for 2 to 4 players. And today I'm going to give you a preview because this game is live on Kickstarter. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview of how the game works. The game is quite a bit of depth in the game, so I'm going to give you some high level. Sometimes I'll go in details, sometimes keep it very high level so you just understand how the game works. So let's take a look. Now all the components and artwork are subject to change because this is a Kickstarter preview, but check out the Kickstarter page for all the final components and artwork. The object of Galaxy of Trian is to score the most credits, and they come in this really nice bag of credits. And you'll score these credits during the game by playing tiles down on the board and closing different areas like outer space areas because it's surrounded by nebulas and gas clouds. And also by closing planetary systems, making sure you've closed all the starlight paths, and by closing nebulas. And also by constructing research stations and space stations. And at the end of the game, you'll be getting credits for turning in different minerals that you'll get over the course of the game. And also at the end of the game, by plundering with your Corvette ship to an opponent's research or space station. Now the game comes with these awesome component bags that hold the credits, the combat tokens, the minerals, and all of the things that you need for your alien races. Now each player gets to select an alien race, they get a board, and they get all sorts of different components. We have these space stations and research stations and emissaries and all different ships. And they all start with 2 sort of race abilities at the beginning of the game. And here's a closer look at all those components sitting right on that board. The gameplay goes through 3 phases: extraction, expansion, and exploration. And each player will go through each of these. In the first phase, extraction, anything here is optional. The first possible thing you can do is trade. And when you're trading, you could purchase any of the minerals from the bag by default for 6 credits, or you can pull one out of here, the combat tokens, randomly for 4 credits as the default, because these have different things on the back. So these are random, and these ones you say which ones you want to buy for different credits. You could also exchange any 2 minerals that you have, put it in the bag, and take any 1 mineral that you'd like. You can also gain minerals now by controlling certain nebulas in certain different ways. You can also gain minerals if you control a nebula with at least 1 rogue ship. And the last thing you can do in the extraction phase is race evolution, where you could take some of these race skill tokens and choose which side you'd like to activate, and then pay the certain amount to then activate that as a race ability. You always start with 2 race abilities at the beginning of the game, but then you can bring more in later. Now each player gets to select an alien race, they get a board, and they get all sorts of different components. We have these space stations and research stations and emissaries and all different ships. And they all start with 2 sort of race abilities at the beginning of the game. Now that first phase was the extraction phase, and all those were optional. This second phase expansion is mandatory. You must select one of the tiles from the top. You can't look at them before you can see one of these sides. So let's say you select this one. Once you've chosen it, you have to keep it, and you can choose whatever side you want now. So let's say we play this down here, and we play the tile down here. These tiles also act as a time clock for the game, because once this is empty, the game will end. Now, as you add tiles to ones that are already there, you must match. For example, I can't put this here because this is outer space, this is a nebula. I can't put this here because that has star trails, and this one doesn't, but now I can put it like this, and now they match. And as we saw earlier in the beginning of the video, that this actually closes this planetary system, and you'd get some credits for that, which are points. And the more tiles that are part of that system, the more credits you get. Now in phase 3, it's exploration phase. It's optional. Just like the first phase, it's optional, but unlike the first phase, you can only take 1 of the actions. Where in the first phase, you can take as many as you want. This one, it's only 1. So one of these actions you can take, the first thing is you could research. Just draw 1 random mineral from the bag and place it in your stash. The next possible thing is going on an expedition, and that's sending either an emissary or a ship out onto the board. An emissary can get placed onto a planet or onto a nebula or a trade outpost. Or you could place a ship into a black space area as long as there's not an opponent ship within one tile away. Now ships will be able to move out throughout the game, which I'll show you later, but emissaries stay most of the time where they're placed to begin with a few exceptions. Now another option is if you already have an emissary on a closed planetary system or a nebula, you can build a research station, and that would be built just like this, and you would get some credits for doing so. If it was already a research station in this phase, you could then build the space station here, and it's assuming that it is a closed planetary system or nebula, and this emissary is not blocked. And you can get blocked by opponents' ships. Now, when constructing on planetary systems, it's the number of tiles plus the number of emissaries times 10, so in this case that would be worth 15 credits. Now if you construct on a closed nebula, for example, you'll get 1 credit for each of the tiles, so 3 credits. If it's a research station, you'll also get 2 resources that will come out, but if it was the space station, you would have gotten 4 resources to come out of that nebula. Now another thing you can do in this phase is if you had placed a teleport tile this turn, any tile that's touching it, the 3 tiles, you can teleport something from there to a different part of the board. It could be one of your pieces or an opponent's. It could be an emissary or a ship. If it's a ship, let's say this guy was blocking my emissary there, you can now teleport this to any other open black space there on the board and send them away. Or I could have teleported myself. Let's say the ship was here blocking me. Maybe I wanted to go here to make a bigger planetary system anyway. Now another thing you could do is move ships, and you can move a ship up to 3 spots. They have to stay on the black outer space areas. They can't go through nebulas and gas clouds and things like that. And you can move up to 3, so this one could go up 1, 2, 3. Now if they're next to an adjacent tile with another ship that's a touching outer space area, there will be a battle. Now if a battle's happening, both players will have to decide whether they're using combat tokens that they had gotten earlier, and they would have gotten those either from the trade phase, as we talked about earlier, or controlling a planetary system or a nebula. Now once they put those tokens down face down, they are committed. Whether or not they actually use the ability on the other side or not, they're going to be spent. Then both players will simultaneously roll their attack die of their colors, and then the combat tokens will be revealed, and then the attacker can resolve theirs. So this can be a reroll if I want, and a +1. And they could resolve those there, and then the defender would resolve theirs. Now the winner at that point would get to remove the enemy ship back into that player's supply. They would also get 2 of the minerals from the bag. But if it's a tie, both ships are removed and no minerals are given. And if there's other adjacent ships, then you can do secondary and more battles if there's more ships around. Now you can actually cause a battle with emissaries if you essentially would close a nebula that has both emissaries of different people on them. There would be a battle. The person who placed this tile is the attacker, and the winner would be, battle's pretty similar as the ship, but the winner would be able to say that they have stayed on here and gotten the right amount of credits and a combat token. And the same could happen if you close 2 planetary systems with emissaries. Now each player goes through all 3 of those phases successively until the last tile from the tile holder is placed. That will be the end of the last turn. They'll finish the 3 phases in that player, and then the end game will begin. Each player will then get 3 credits for each of the minerals they still have, and you'll get credits by using your ship to plunder enemy planetary systems that contain a space station or research station. And whoever has the most credits at the end is the winner. Now just to talk a little bit about special abilities, for example, this is one you start with, and this player can basically trade 1 green mineral to another player to get any 2 colors of their minerals. If you had activated this one throughout the game, you could take any 4 different colored minerals and trade them in for 16 credits. Now there is a beginner version of this game which you could recommend to new people because it does take out a few things. First of all, it takes out any of the extra racial skills and tokens out of the game. You do not use any of the racial skills on the board, and you do not use any of the ships in the game, but that still gives you good depth of strategy. Now there's also going to be some early bird specials. There's going to be some metal credits, so they replace the cardboard credits that I showed you for the points, and they're metal credits, and the early birds are for the first 72 hours of the campaign, so don't wait. Alright, well there's Galaxy of Trian, and as you can tell, the game, even though this is a prototype here, is beautiful. The artwork in this game is just stunning, of the different alien boards and the different alien races there. even on the bags and such. Excellent components between the bags and the cardboard chits. And again, this is probably not even the final pieces and art. You want to check the Kickstarter page for that. But man, it really does feel like you're in outer space. I love the tile placement aspect of this. Feels like Carcassonne on steroids, where you're trying to do different things to give you different strategies and moving your planes around. There's a lot going on in this game, but if you like sort of those games in space that have a ton of choices to do, where you're going around and sometimes messing with other people, but other times trying to do your own thing, get minerals, sometimes doing battling, but moving back and forth, I think this is going to be one to check out because, man, it's a heavier game, but there's definitely a lot of choices to make. And as you play each race and they have different abilities, they each have a different flavor as well. So if you're interested in this, I'm sure they'd love your support. In the description of this video, I have placed a link, and that link will bring you directly to the Kickstarter page where you can see all the final artwork and components there, all the different add-ons, and all the different early birds. I know that they're going to be offering those metal credits as early bird in the first 72 hours. Also some different add-ons like basically a play matte cloth there. It looks really cool. So a lot of different things. So go check this out.